Dear Ignitis Group, retail investors, dear guests, and of course, those who are watching online. I welcome you to the first International Investor Day 2024 of Ignitis Group. Before we dive into the strategies and all other details, I would like some technical information to tell you. So, first of all, occasionally you will see a QR code on the screen. The code is for Slido platform. So all of you, those who are watching online and those in the audience, will have an opportunity to ask questions. You will also see the code after the presentations. So if you missed the code and you will be able to ask questions what's interesting for you. Now, I would like to ask on the stage Aine Rifel-Grinkevičienė to tell a few words for our beloved retail investors. Aine, please.
So good morning all and a very warm welcome today at the Energy and Technology Museum and also to all of those who joined online. So today is the second time when we meet our retail investors at the Investor Day, but it's, as Artūras mentioned, it's the first international one. So also welcome all who joined from the abroad. And last year we met in our hydro power plant, Kruonis. This time we are at this building where the first energy power plant in Vilnius was built. And we will discuss the future of energy. So this will be not a simple, ordinary presentation of strategy and financial results. You will have explicit opportunity to learn about our largest projects, development, status from our business unit leaders. With that, we aim you to give a clear and compelling understanding of how far we have progressed while implementing our strategy. We believe we are well positioned to achieve our targets and create value to our shareholders. So thank you for being a part of our integral journey, and I hope you will enjoy today.
Thank you, Aine. And now I would like to invite the CEO of Ignitis Group, Darius Maikštėnas, who will tell more about strategy and the energy markets in the Baltics. Darius, the floor is yours.
Good morning, dear retail investors. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you for investing into Ignitis Group and into the region and into the radical transformation of this region to the green and secure energy ecosystem. As you all well know, we are present across 3 Baltic states, Finland and Poland, with 4 main business areas in our focus. First of all, green capacities. For us, it's a growth engine in which we accelerate our investments very rapidly, and this is for us growth engine to grow the value for the society and for shareholders. The second segment is networks, which remains and will be present only in Lithuania, but for us it's a very strong resilience, a backbone, capital-wise, revenue-wise, fully regulated asset, which really complements the mix of our portfolio, and on the other hand, significantly contributes to our purpose. We have customers and solutions, which is supply, basically retail and wholesale business area, which really complements our green capacities growth, because we have a unique integrated business model, which does combine not only generation side or flexibility side, but also the build out of relevant offtake portfolio across those regions in which we invest in our green capacities. That is the kind of our main differentiator from other players in the region. The last one, reserve capacities. It's a smaller segment, but it is really relevant for the system security across the region, and also really complements very well our entire portfolio of development and operations. To look at our purpose, at our deep purpose, on the slide you can read our purpose statement, but frankly saying, each word, each comma in this statement matters. And when you will dig deeper later on into our strategy and our operations and our investments, you will see that all strategy, all our operations, all our strategic decisions are really focused in the main purpose, deep purpose of the Ignitis Group, which is around energy security and decarbonization of the region. So our mission is to lead regional transformation to decarbonized economy and decarbonized ecosystem. And by ecosystem, we mean that we will not focus only to our operations, but we are trying to build the bigger cake in the entire region, while transforming not only energy sector, but also facilitating transformation in larger industries, transportation, and heating. We think and we see that Baltic states will be among the leaders in Europe while achieving 100% of green capacities fulfilling internal needs. And also we say and we see huge potential that Baltic states will become green energy exporters and will contribute significantly to decarbonization, not only of the region, but also of the decarbonization of entire Europe, especially Germany, while creating decent and large green energy flows from Baltics to the Central Europe. When we started group transformation in 2018, we released, and when we released the first strategy, which was renewables focused, at that time, 75% or 3/4 of EBITDA was from networks. And currently you can see that networks, they are still large and growing, but already correspond about 1/3 of the portfolio. And the main growth is in green capacities. While customers and solutions, they are contributing about from 5 to 7%. The EBITDA-wise is the smaller segment, but it's very relevant for the entire business mix to empower green generation investments and make it bankable. On the reserve capacities, this business contributes about 10% to the mix, and it is stable, and we do not foresee a huge growth or shrinkage in this segment, so it's more for the security purposes. As I said in our purpose statement, we see much bigger picture and much bigger potential in the region, which in early days was more organized around the security of the energy. And since especially Lithuania was in structural deficit of domestic generation, the aim of all strategies was how to become self-sufficient, how to get rid of a huge amount of exports. So first stage and first phase of transformation is, of course, dedicated to gaining the self-sufficiency and security. But looking into the broader agenda, we see that in the region we will need to have large-scale decarbonization of local industries, which will require enormous amount of new energy sources to be built. And on top of that, we see that very huge flows of export in next couple of decades could be built, which will contribute to the value growth, not only of the company, but of entire region. This is really the part of the bigger plan. These days, majority of energy sources delivered to Central Europe are sourced globally, since LNG, natural gas, and oil and coal could be delivered by vessels, so it's a global market and energy sourcing is global. While Europe is decarbonizing and reaching decarbonization goals, we see the clear trend that some regions in Europe will become structural importers and other regions will emerge as energy exporters and donors to the Central Europe. Why so? Because the flows of energy will change. In the green energy landscape, there is no more global sourcing of energy. Most energy will be delivered by in forms of electrons, meaning we have to have electric lines connected to the major off-takers, or in form of molecules via pipelines. It is impossible to deliver hydrogen in efficient manner using shipping. Therefore, energy sourcing will become from global to regional, and some regions will contribute a lot to the major off-takers in the Central Europe. And Baltic states are very well positioned to gain a lot of value of this transition of the entire region and the world from fossil fuel-based economy into green energy-based economy. Baltic states, if to calculate all natural potential, how much of renewables could be built across Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, we see that up to 7, even 8 times more could be produced across 3 Baltic states comparing to the domestic consumption. And this is unique position of those 3 Baltic states comparing to any region. Would it be Spain, Portugal, or Nordic states? They are much different. They have bigger density, larger domestic consumption, and Baltics, they have a lot of natural resource, low density of population and industries, very close proximity to the Germany. So all kind of natural resources are very well available to create enormous value. But to make it happen, a lot of things to be done. And it's not enough just to have a huge potential and the proximity of Germany to deliver all that energy sources to the Central Europe. To make it happen, since renewable investments are building brick by brick, wind and solar park by park, each investment has to be economically rational and pay off and bring the profit. And it works at the beginning in the domestic energy system. We see the need and we will see the transformation of traditional energy systems, which are currently based on some kind of base load and dispatchable peaking, which makes possible to follow the demand curve. Because demand is not stable, but usually traditional energy systems have 2 elements. Base load, usually based on the nuclear or fossil fuel assets which are working all the time, and some dispatchable assets who fulfill the need to match in the real-time demand with supply. And later on, when new renewable investments are taking place, at the beginning, to integrate them into the energy system is relatively simple. Because what is happening due to the trading and actions of TSO, renewables are taking place into the daily generation mix, while dispatchable peaking is shaping its presence, and integration of renewables, while it is 10%, 20%, or 30% in the total generation mix, it's relatively cheap and simple. And majority of countries and the businesses are in this stage. They have more or less renewables covered with from the bottom with the base load and with the dispatchable peaking on the top. But when investors are putting more and more money into renewables, at a certain time we are reaching so-called saturation of renewables. If the local demand remains the same, renewables, they are pushing out the need of to have the base load. And at a certain time, during several hours, there is a more production comparing to the local demand. And here we see lower negative prices, and the investors stop further investments and talk about renewable saturation in this area, because each other gigawatt or megawatt of generation will create overcapacity, which will destroy the value. It does not pay off because there is no need in the local demand for it in the certain time. But we clearly foresee that in these regions, which will become structural donors to the Central Europe, new energy model is emerging. And new energy model is based on oversupply of renewables combined with dynamic flexibility, dynamic storage, dynamic demand, which is generated by additional investments in flexibility assets and flexibility of the system, which lets to absorb energy during the overproduction times and convert it into the storages or convert it into molecules and use it later on for the industry usage. Why we need this flexibility at the beginning? Most of all, we have to have each green electricity generation project to be profitable before we will see connections of international links, and we will be able to sell electrons and molecules to the Central Europe. We have to have enough flexibility locally, not to stop the speed of our investments in the region and not to reach too much of those negative hours while we are waiting for the international links. Therefore, we made quite intense modeling, and we are always following kind of the development of all the region, how much of renewables we foresee, at least by 2030. And if to compare domestic plants, which are updated regularly to the highest side all the time, on generation side, we see that in 2030 and beyond, we will need probably from 5 to 10 times more flexibility in the system to profitably integrate all those plant megawatts and gigawatts across Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Currently, the major flexibility asset in Baltic states is Kruonis, and you will see more info how Kruonis is developing. It's a huge, unique storage asset that will be upgraded. So in 2026, 27, it will become bigger. We will see large-scale batteries development, which will increase additional flexibility into the system. But from certain time, to absorb all the investment potential in renewables across three Baltic states, we will need the decent electrolysis capacities in this region, because we will have limited demand of two-sided flexibility. Because two-sided flexibility, usually it's acronis or batteries, when you absorb energy and release energy to the same domestic energy system. But from certain time, when we will build huge overcapacity in the system, we will need more and more one-sided flexibility, just absorbing electrons and converting them into molecules. Okay, these days there are a lot of buzz about electrolysis and power-to-X, and most people already know that it's based on electrolysis using the green energy, and primary product of this, it is hydrogen, with following products of methanol, synthetic methane, and ammonia. And frankly saying, it is already clear that a lot of businesses and government incentives and projects in hydrogen team will lose a lot of money, because it's currently maybe too much buzz and too less economy and calculation in all these developments and projects. In hydrogen economy, what is very important to calculate very carefully is energy losses and economics. And if somebody believes that, I don't know, local city transport could run on the pure hydrogen, it's complete loss of energy and money, because in between of generation and kinetic energy of vehicle, there is something like between 65 and 75% of energy losses in between, because you have to create hydrogen, when transform hydrogen into liquefied form or other form, and when it finally released in the vehicle, huge losses appear. While direct electrification in EVs, it's most efficient mean, and the energy losses between the generation and the movement of the vehicle is from single digits to around 10% or up to 15%, not more. So it's complete difference comparing hydrogen solution. Yes, physically it's possible, but economic-wise, it's irrational. Therefore, we analyzed very carefully, okay, what is first priorities in the hydrogen economy? And we see very clearly that most efficient application of green hydrogen is replacing gray hydrogen into green hydrogen in the biggest industrial applications. The second one is usually in methanol or ammonia applications, in e-fuels, which are will be used later on in aviation or large-scale shipping, in those areas in which impossible to electrify directly those units, and so on and so on. So focusing into the replacement of gray hydrogen, which is currently worldwide, it's about 80 million tons annual market, and 99% of hydrogen globally is currently made from natural gas. But for us, it's most important to know, okay, what industries currently use hydrogen. And what is interesting, that 65% of all applications of hydrogen globally is related to ammonia production. Another 25 is used in oil refineries, and only 7% in methanol and the rest. If you look at these figures, you will very soon realize that Baltic states and Lithuania in particular have unique position in this journey because we have two huge current large-scale hydrogen users. Large ammonia fertilizer factory and large oil refinery present in our system. So while we will decarbonize implementing and following RED III directive, they will create continuous demand for the green energy and green hydrogen over the next couple of decades until they will become fully climate neutral. We are to make that electrolysis, because for electrolysis it's not enough just to have off-takers, but also a huge part of it is to have very large-scale access to the network. And here we realized that in our group we have very unique asset with the name Elektrėnai. And Elektrėnai, currently in Elektrėnai we have reserve capacity generation assets, but huge territory and very attractive position for electrolysis is in place. And the major asset of Elektrėnai is a grid connection. That grid connection of Elektrėnai let us to absorb up to 3 gigawatts of electricity from all 3 Baltic states and convert that electricity into the hydrogen. It's strategically located very closely to the ammonia fertilizer factory, which is possible to connect with the product pipeline. It has rail connection. It sits on the transnational national natural gas grid. So we see that at certain stage, Elektrėnai can produce around 100,000 hydrogen annually, while implementing something around 1 gigawatt of electrolysis. It's not a full scale how much we can put there, and not necessarily it will happen overnight, but we see not pilot kind of potential here, but huge transformation potential in Elektrėnai while applying all the benefits which are currently present here. Another important topic is not only how to concentrate and combine onshore energy, which we see that the closest route is to concentrate and transform the energy from onshore in Elektrėnai. But in offshore we have huge natural potential, up to 26 of gigawatts of sea potential, natural potential to develop new generation assets. And they are so huge that no local grid will be able to absorb that amount of energy. So naturally, another energy hub has to be developed, which will have the mission to absorb the energy from offshore parks in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, to establish international links for electrons and hydrogen to the Central Europe, to integrate to the major off-takers across the Baltic states, and unlock that 26 gigawatt potential of offshore what Baltic states do have. Therefore, it will combine connection of offshore parks, export links, facilitation, and large-scale electrolysis. What is the vision? But it's not a vision, but also roadmap, and some elements are already under construction. Some elements are already written, if you read carefully, in national energy strategy, which was adopted by the parliament. But a lot of things you will see happening year by year, while all 3 Baltic states will start act more and more together to make this export potential real. So first of all, what will happen at the end of 2026? We will expand Kruonis hydro asset, and that will bring additional 1 gigawatt of hydro capacity into the region. You will hear more today about what is going on in Kruonis and how it will deliver such an enormous amount of flexibility. The next, around 2030 and beyond, we see that Lithuania will have 2 offshore parks reaching 1.4 gigawatts of offshore capacity in generation, and in parallel, establishment of onshore hub in Elektrėnai, which is dedicated to convert energy into molecules, will start, and it will complement the generation with additional flexibility in the system. Later on, we are working very close with all the ecosystem friends in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia to establish clear roadmap which will include the development of first of all, electrical part of offshore hub with the purpose to connect offshore assets across three Baltic states and have the direct link to the Germany to make possible to export electrons directly. And somewhere beyond 2035, it will be combined with large scale of electrolysis in the region, and that will make possible not only to use it in western part of Lithuania, mainly Orlen, but it will also to contribute significantly to ammonia factory and also to create international link to the Central Europe, most likely through the Bjørholm Island, where Denmark is building the similar concept of energy hub, combining regional assets with electrolysis and export links to Germany. Later on, we can foresee development of additional links to Finland, because Finland is contemplating about up to or even over 100 gigawatts of green capacities, again, which will serve first of all to decarbonize their local energy-heavy industries, but also to create huge flows of energy dedicated to Germany. And later on, about 2040 and beyond, there are also pan-European projects to connect Finland through three Baltic states, Poland and Germany, with hydrogen backbone, which will kind of finalize the whole ecosystem infrastructure and will create kind of strong backbone for the future investments into green energy. What is important in that roadmap? That without, as I started to explain, it's not enough to have the natural resource and proximity of Germany nearby. Before we will see, and international links are expensive, and on one hand, on the other hand, enough of regional production should be established to make those links feasible. So usually some regions are facing chicken and an egg problem. You cannot build a lot of renewables and wait for 10 years when you will get the hydrogen link. And Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, we are in very, very unique position, because at the beginning we will have enormous flexibility boost from Kruonis, and later on these two local hydrogen off-takers will pick up and will facilitate further flexibility into the system, facilitating green generation investments. And when we will get those international links, this region will be very well penetrated by investments and will achieve large scale to be competitive regionally. And this is really big. If to calculate total theoretical potential. Of course, it will never happen, maybe 50% or 30%, it would be huge achievement, but if to calculate all the gigawatts, how much we can build in offshore, onshore, solar and electrolysis, it equals to around 150 billion of the capex and devex. So that illustrates the kind of amount of potential, how much the region has, and therefore all what we do currently in Ignitis Group, we are working on this first phase, energy security, energy self-sufficiency. We will approach the decarbonization and later on export. So therefore, continuous growth, new investments, and new growth of EBITDA and the value, it will be not for the next 2, 3, 5 years, but it's for several decades in the future. Why? That's why it is worth to be with us, because we have unique role in this transformation journey. We have the largest energy storage asset in Lithuania, and we are building a most comprehensive team which is working on offshore and onshore projects of the largest scale in the region. And potential is not short term, but medium and long term, it's enormous. With that, I'm ready for your questions.
Thank you, Darius, for insightful presentation. And yes, we do have some questions. The first one I will ask is, when are you planning to export electricity?
Actually, export is taking place already. But as you have seen in our roadmap, on the large scale in electrons, we can expect large-scale international links somewhere between 30 to 35, combined with the hydrogen links. Before that, we have more and more export through onshore, because in onshore, currently we have lead polling connections, and around 30, 31, most likely we will have additional 7 megawatts of Harmony link, which will be built nearby Rail Baltic lines. So therefore, it will grow gradually, but large boost is beyond 2030.
Another electricity-related question. Why do you think Germany will buy our electricity?
Yeah, it's a very simple answer. When politicians asking me how to deliver low prices, and in energy there are a lot of tricks how to make low prices for the short term, before elections or after elections or something like that. But sustainably, not for 1 year or half a year, but sustainably for several decades to achieve the most competitive pricing level, in the European energy model, there is the only way, is to create overcapacity of generation. And if we create competitive overcapacity of generation, this one is becoming kind of very attractive, not only to energy importers, but also to the industries from abroad to go to Baltic states and use the local energy. Now, why we can be competitive comparing to the Germany? First of all, we already have very high density of population, quite crowded space in the offshore area, and also missing kind of advantages what we have in Baltic states. First of all, due to the Baltic states have very low domestic consumption, which means that we can achieve this overproduction of electrons, which will be competitive very soon. Therefore, it's basically the major element in the system.
Darius, I have to tell you that the questions are flowing, but we do not have enough time to answer all of them. So thank you for the presentation. Thank you. Dear investors, some of the questions you have will be answered, or you will have the possibility to ask during different presentations of our business segments. So I will do my best so that all the answers would be answered. And now I would like to invite Jonas Rimavičius, CFO of Ignitis Group, and let's talk more about financials. Jonas.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I would like to start by saying that this is my favorite audience to present to, our existing investors, because clearly you understand how good of the investment opportunity Ignitis Group is, because you already invested in it. So thank you for that. And so today I will speak about three things. So firstly, our progress since the IPO. Secondly, our long-term potential. And thirdly, our equity story. So without further ado, let's start with a picture, and let's look at the numbers, how we looked at the time of the IPO, and how we look now. So firstly, adjusted EBITDA in 2020, we posted 245 million euros. In 2023, that number has increased to 484 million. So effectively, our EBITDA has doubled since the IPO. On the investment side, the growth has been even bigger. So we have tripled our annual investments, and last year, in a single year, we almost reached 1 billion euros. Over the period from 2020 to 2023, that number was 2 billion euros of investments. And that is very much, those investments are very much reflected in our green capacities portfolio, which has increased 5 times. And those investments are also very much visible on our balance sheet. So you can see that we reached a total assets of 5.4 billion euros and total equity of 2.4 billion euros. Both of these numbers are more than 30% larger than they were at the time of the IPO. Very importantly, we managed to achieve this growth and make these investments without compromising on our leverage metrics. So you can see that our leverage in terms of net debt to EBITDA has increased only marginally from 2.4 to 2.7 times. And yeah, the not so nice picture in the shaded area, the share price and market capitalization, you can clearly see that the market has appreciated the good results. Of course, I'm being sarcastic. We are still 17% below the IPO price, and the same applies for market cap naturally. I like to just to draw your attention at the ratio which we have on price to book, right? So our market cap at the IPO was at 1.7, and the book value was more or less at the same level, meaning one time multiple for price to book. Now, the ratio is 0.5. So 1.3 market cap, which you can see on the 6th slide, and 2.4 in book value just a month ago. So, which indicates a 50% discount to book value. And I will leave you to making the conclusions out of it for yourself. Okay, moving on, just a quick insight into the results by our business segments. So the message here is that the growth has happened in all of our 4 business segments. of course, the majority of the growth came from green capacities, which increased more than 4 times and was the main growth engine. And the growth in green capacities happened for several reasons. So firstly, the investments made generated the return. Right? Secondly, the power price environment has been more favorable than we have expected at the time of the IPO. And thirdly, our green flexibility fleet has shown increase in profitability due to more and more renewables being put on the grid. And by our green flexibility, I not only mean our Kronis pump storage plant, but also our Kaunas Hydro, our Kaunas CHP, Vilnius CHP assets. All of them have a flexibility incorporated in their business model. Next, the second segment, networks. So we are, this year we'll have already around 20 million more EBITDA coming from networks than we had at 2020. And this might not seem a lot, but actually the 2020 number is pre-regulatory change, which means that we already caught up with our results since the IPO. And from here on, the growth will only accelerate in the networks business. Customers and solutions, some growth here as well. But the main thing here is that this segment has enabled our growth on the green capacity side. And last but not least, reserve capacities, again, quite a bit of growth percentage-wise, which was also driven by the fact of more volatility in the market. So these assets can also utilize the optionality to operate and generate return when the market conditions are favorable. Okay, moving on further. So this year is the first year when we can look at the results of our first strategic plan, which we published at the time of the IPO, and which covers the period from 2020 to 2023. And you can clearly see that we outperformed on the EBITDA target quite a bit. We beat both the target and our expectations. We have invested at the top of our target range. We did that with quite a bit of headroom on our leverage limits. On green capacity side, we somewhat under-delivered, but that was done in a way on purpose. When the market has become a bit crazy in 2020 to 2022 in terms of renewable project prices, we deliberately said we will not be sacrificing the returns in order to simply deliver megawatts. So what we did, we focused on our earlier stage pipeline, on building the earlier stage, and then generating bigger returns later on. And we already see that it clearly worked. We are fully on track to our 2030 targets, and we will also see better returns on our renewables portfolio. And last but not least, CO2 reduction targets, we delivered on that 100%. So that's it about the past. Now let's switch to the future, the 24-27 strategic plan targets. So as you can clearly see, we'll have more EBITDA growth, we'll have more investments, we'll have more installed green capacities, but we will have the same discipline on our leverage, and we will have the same discipline on our investment returns. In terms of the targets in particular, so on EBITDA, we aim to grow by up to 34%. On the investment side, we will go up to 2 times more than we invested 4 years before. On the leverage metrics, the target is unchanged to stay below 5 times net debt to adjusted EBITDA. And on the green capacities, we target between 2.4 and 2.6 gigawatts by 2027. CO2 targets, we aim to the reduction in our carbon intensity in scope 1 and 2 of up to 40%. And as you can see, we are well on track so far on all these targets, and even, I would say, slightly ahead due to very strong H1 results in 2024. Okay, another important element of our future growth and future potential is the dividends. And we have a very simple approach to paying our dividends. We are saying that we will pay 3% more in dividends every single year. And we did that during COVID. We did that during energy crisis. We did that during war in Ukraine, and we intend to continue doing that in the foreseeable future. In terms of the numbers, a bit symbolic number. In 2026, will exceed 100 million euros in dividends. So that's a symbolic number. And a very real and tangible number is 8% dividend yield, which you get for 2027 if you invest in the share today. Okay, how this our future potential is looked through the eyes of external parties, through the eyes of investment professionals. So our share is followed by multiple analysts who do an in-depth analysis of Ignitis Group, and then the outcome of that analysis is target share price. Currently, the average target share price by these analysts is 30 euros, which if you compare to the current market price of 18.6 euros, you get a potential upside of 60%. Yes, this is the correct number, 60, right? And that is not a standalone number. This is on top of the very generous dividend yield of 8%. And this is a good segue into my last slide on our equity story, which says precisely that we offer a very attractive blend of growth and yield in the Ignitis Group shares. And sometimes, especially on the retail investor side, everyone clearly understands the yield part, right? This is a very well understood, the dividend yield, but the growth part is overlooked. So I would like to emphasize, this is the blend of yield and growth in our case. And there are 5 elements to our equity story. One is that we are a renewables-focused integrated utility with plenty of growth opportunities. So we aim to increase our installed green capacities from 1.4 gigawatt today to between 4 and 5 gigawatts in 2030. And we already have an 8 gigawatt portfolio, which will enable us to do that. So we are well positioned. Secondly, our integrated business model allows us to generate resilient returns even in very volatile market conditions. And that integrated business model benefits from one of the largest energy storage facilities in all of Europe in Kruonis. It also benefits from the largest network in the Baltics with 1.6 billion in asset base and double-digit growth going further. And it also benefits from the largest customer portfolio in the Baltics of 1.4 million customers, which enables the growth of our green capacities. Third element is our strong financial profile, supported by BBB+ credit rating, which is the highest credit rating in the region among our competitors, which creates a very tangible competitive advantage in this very capital-intensive industry in terms of cost of capital. Fourth, We are committed to sustainability. It's embedded in our strategy. We aim to achieve net zero by 2040 to 2050. And lastly, once again, the key element, attractive blend of growth and yield. Right? We offer an EBITDA growth of up to 8% over the next 4 years and a dividend yield of 7 to 8%. Thank you.
Jonas, thank you very much. And the questions are flowing. So, the first one I will ask you is, when do you expect the Ignitis stock to be added to the MSCI World Index, and what might be needed from the Lithuanian government to enable that?
Yeah, I think as much as I would love to see it quite soon in there, and I mean on the perspectives and business model and growth opportunities, you know, we could be there already. But the issue is the rather technical one, that the Baltic markets are still treated as a frontier market, right? Which means that our eligibility for these indices is very much restricted. So in order to be eligible for these indices, ETFs to be included there, we need to work collectively as the Baltic states to improve our status from frontier markets to at least emerging market or ultimately developed market. So until that happens, it's, you know, on the index side, we will struggle.
Okay. What is personal Ignitis management buy-in in Ignitis strategy via buy shares of company?
Yes. So all of the management team has his shares, and me personally as well. And I think it's, you know, it's a good investment. So as simple as that.
Also, another question, a bit more global. In last years, big global players have cancelled number of investment offshore projects around Europe, USA, Asia. What are the main reasons for it in your view?
So the main reason was quite simple. The economics not working, and the economics did not work for quite a few projects which have secured the revenue side. So they were awarded the tariffs in the auctions, but did not secure the capex side. So which meant that when capex has increased, the revenue level, which was already fixed, was too low, and the projects did not make economic sense. So I mean, in our case, we are making sure that we tie those two together, and it works.
You know, the related question is, what are the main risks of big investments in the Baltic Sea? So what is your view on this one?
What are the big risks?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in general, they are very typical offshore wind risks, right? And from what we are seeing right now, you know, the conditions in the Baltic Sea on our, you know, coastal areas, from the surveys we are already completed, you know, the conditions are really good. So I would say it's even on the lower side of typical offshore wind risks. I mean, but those are, you know, offshore projects there are, you know, a lot of projects which were completed on the offshore across the world. It's an established technology, so it's, you know, typical execution risks which you find.
What year can we expect share price of 30 euros?
Hopefully next year, but or even this. But you know, I think there's a good reason for that to happen. Of course, I mean, the underlying challenge which we are facing right now is on the liquidity side, due to limited liquidity, and part of the reason is not being eligible for these ETFs and indices, right? Because we are frontier market, as we discussed. So the liquidity issue prevents quite a few of large international investors to enter into the stock because they have certain liquidity thresholds. And even though they like the story, they like the management, they like the progress, they like everything, they can't simply enter. So that's, and we working on the plan how to fix it, but it's not, it's not that easy.
Okay, we also have a question. Do you plan to issue any green bonds?
If I may add
yeah.
to the previous one, but
Yeah.
on the flip side, for retail investors, it's a great thing, right? It's I mean, you're getting a good thing at at fraction of a price. So
Okay, and also about green bonds, do you have any plans to issue them in the future?
the short answer is yes. I mean, if you look at our capex program of up to 4 billion over the next 4 years, so naturally we'll need various funding resources. Green bonds is one of the instruments which we would use if it would be the most attractive for that particular purpose.
Okay. And also asset rotation program. Why we don't see any transactions yet? Are there gonna be some new on the foreseeable future?
Yeah, so in terms of asset rotation, it's part of our strategy. At the same time, the role of it is to recycle capital, so to get back the capital by selling 49% stakes in the projects, to make further investments, and to manage the leverage level. So it's a capital raising exercise. And currently you've seen our leverage metrics, they are very healthy, so there is no pressure to do any asset rotation. That being said, it's part of a strategy, and you will definitely see transactions taking place. But, yeah.
Actually, a few questions about buybacks, so I'll try to ask only one of them. Why dividends instead of buybacks?
Well, we don't really see the difference how to return the money to our shareholders. So in our view, dividends are equivalent to share buybacks, and since we already have a defined dividend policy, which we are happy with, which we intend to stick to, which allows us to balance the growth, the dividends, and the leverage metrics. We use dividends as the main tool of returning capital to shareholders. So we have nothing against share buybacks, but it's, we don't see the real difference.
Okay. Thank you, Jonas. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for your answers.
Thank you.
Before we go to a coffee break, I would like to share some technical details. For those who will be going on a trip to Kruonis power plant, I want to remind you that the bus will be waiting at 2:30 outside of the museum. If you are watching this online and you are planning to also participate in the trip, please do not forget your ID or passport or any kind of document of identification. And now I invite you to enjoy a coffee break. We will get back at 1 o'clock. So it's perfect time to network and to share all the details and insights. Thank you. Welcome back to Ignitis Group Investor Day 2024. As we are approaching the second part of the event, where we will go deeper into different business segments, some practical reminders. For those who will be going to a trip to Kruonis power plant, the bus will leave at 2:30. Please do not be late. And if you are watching this conference online, please do not forget your identification documents. Also, I would like to remind you that you can ask questions on Slido platform. You will see the QR code after every presentation, so you will be able to scan it and ask questions, and I will tell them for our speakers. And now we are starting the part where we will deep dive in different business segments. So I would like to invite Gary Bills, COO of Ignitis Renewables. He will be speaking instead of Thierry, who was unavailable. So,
Correct.
Gary, the floor is yours.
That's right. So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gary Bills. I'm the Chief Operations Officer for Ignitis Renewables. We're some 300 people these days across various portfolios, but we'll kind of get into it a little bit. Okay, Jonas said briefly earlier on where we are in terms of our portfolio. It's growing quickly and continues to grow quickly. I think we can touch on these various things a little bit. Where we are now is this 2.4 gigawatts is kind of very secure, let's say. We know exactly where it is. We know exactly when the deadlines are, when we're going to go for FID, so on and so forth. The 4 to 5 gigawatt targets, even there we know roughly at what point we are and how we're going to achieve our FID, or at what point we're going to come for FID. Maybe the important thing to say about this 7.7 gigawatts is it's a weighted portfolio. So we take account of, do we have certain criteria met before we issue a kind of how many gigawatts we think we're going to achieve. So in reality, it's a little bit higher than this 7.7, but we weight it back down again in accordance with how quickly we think we can achieve the FID, or what we're missing, grid, land, so on and so forth. But that kind of gives you an indication. Yeah, and in terms of achieving the 5 gigawatts, actually we don't see any reason why we won't achieve that 5 gigawatts whatsoever. In fact, we'll probably be at a point where we can start being much more choosy about which projects we decide to go to FID with. So a little bit about the spread. As you can imagine, it's mainly Lithuanian. And I think the first year of my time, sorry, I've been here for 2.5 years, just to give you some ideas to when we started. So the first year of my time was spent in understanding the portfolio, what was good, what was bad, how we could move forward. And the Lithuanian portfolio was always quite strong, and we've had to catch up a little bit in other areas. Latvia was one of the quickest places that we could get to, and we've made a significant impact there quite quickly. And I think it's fair to say that Estonia is also high on our radar. And Poland was always challenging because of the market conditions, but given a new government and some new thinking and closer sort of integration with EU thinking, we should be moving along quite quickly in Poland as well. And you'll start to see that portfolio move up quite quickly in Poland as well. In terms of mix, it's a real mix in Lithuania. There's everything in there, as you can imagine. There's solar, there's wind, there's pump storage, there's all sorts of things. In Latvia, it's pure wind and solar, and what we're trying to do as much as we can is hybridize our projects. So rather than sticking with one technology, be it solar or be it wind, we'd like to add both capacities just to kind of push out that window so that we've got more options to trade the electricity. Same in Poland, we'll do exactly the same. We'll try and hybridize as much as we can. In Estonia, it's a little bit early for us yet. We're testing the market, we're seeing what's going on. We have some ideas around what we're going to do, but I think we'll start with wind, let's be honest. It's a relatively quick and easy thing for us to do. Okay, this is the most exciting project that I think we've built so far. It's 300 megawatts, it's in Kelmé. It's a huge project for anybody. If you look across Europe at things being built at the moment, I don't know, maybe there's 5 projects or 10 projects that are built bigger than this one right now, or in construction than this one right now. And for Lithuania, it's a huge undertaking. 44 turbines, of which 21 are erected today. The rest will be finished by Christmas or just after, something like that. That's our estimate. It's completely on schedule. There's no delays. We are 640,000 working hours on site so far with no lost time incidents, and we'll be 1 million working hours at the end of the project. Hopefully with still no lost time incidents, but let's see. Hopefully it goes well. What else can I tell you? So at the moment, we're heading towards first generated power. We're still not quite there yet. We're energizing some strings. Everything's going according to plan there as well. So in the next few weeks, we should start to see some energy coming out during the testing phase of that project. And I think colleagues have been there and backwards and forth. And we've done some trips there over the few weeks. And I'm sure if you're driving through that Kelme region, you'll see them. They're huge machines. And very, very, very energy efficient. In terms of power generation for wind speeds, they're absolutely perfectly matched to that side. It's a very good profile. On a little bit, Selesnya. So Poland, this is a real success story for us. It's a first step up for us. We've gone, we've done sort of 80, 90 megawatt projects. This was the first one that we went over 100 megawatts. So 137, again, Nordex turbines. Everything is now finished. So all that project is completed. What we're waiting for now is for the power generator, the off-taker to say, okay, you can take power now. A few weeks, actually maybe another 4 weeks before they give us a green light to start generating. But we're ready to go as soon as they are. And our plan is to get COD, let's say, early March next year would be the plan, probably even a bit before, but somewhere around early March next year. Again, no lost time incidents. I can't tell the amount of hours worked, but it'll be something less, so maybe in total 600,000 working hours, something like that. Yeah, you can see the safety is absolutely critical. Maybe it doesn't come up in these things, but one of the things that we are trying to do is kind of bring this strong safety culture through the company as well. Working at heights and working in power generation is it's challenging. And often my colleagues will say to me, I want to go and see this turbine. I want to go and do that. I want to go to this. And we kind of try and hold people back and say, look, unless you need to work in a wind turbine or unless you need to be on that side, we don't really want you anywhere near that because it's critical that we maintain safety. Okay, Latvian Solar Portfolio 1. I never call it that, but that's what it is, Latvian Solar. So this is 3 sites in Latvia. It's 60 megawatts on one side, 70 megawatts on the other, and the balance on a third site. Yeah. So everything is going really well on this site right now. We're doing piling. You can see, on the right-hand side here, you can see the piles going in. So each one of these will take a solar panel, and there's 4 per solar panel. As you can see, there's 389,000 modules, so multiply that by 4, and you can see how many piles that we need to drive. And on them sites, we've got 12 full-time piling machines and 110 people working full-time right now. So them sites are going absolutely full speed. And the reason they're going full speed, and I should be critical about it, is what we don't want to do is we don't want to enter the winter period when it's rainy and start having to do piles as well, because it's more difficult. You've got tracked vehicles moving around. It slows everything down a little bit. So what we're trying to do is accelerate that works before we get into the deep winter so that we can kind of move away. And of course, when you get into that hard frost, it's even impossible to put the piles in. So we'd have to have a hiatus. So the idea is to speed this works up, get that done, and we can carry on during the winter, putting modules on, so on and so forth. What we will do with that project is we'll energize it in phases. So each set of modules has we call it a string, and we'll energize in phases. So first power will come out of that project in 2025, probably Q2, somewhere around there. A little bit earlier if we can make it. But again, on schedule, no lost time incidents, everything is going according to plan. Maybe we should just touch on just how difficult it is. You can imagine that 110 people working full-time on that project on site means there's probably 250 people in total working project, back office, technical, so on and so forth, And in Latvia, this is quite a new industry, and to build on this scale in Latvia is quite a new industry. So it's quite a challenge to make sure that all these people are qualified and pointing in the right direction. So there's a lot of back office work from people in and around the renewables team, constantly trying to drive these projects in the right way. But I have to say I've been impressed with how our Latvian colleagues have adapted and worked, and how our colleagues internally here in Lithuania have also kind of worked with them. Okay, Tume, very similar. Actually, Tume received FID quite recently. So where are we now? We are finishing off all of the technical things that we need to do before we go to site. We're signing all of our module contracts. I don't know how many, 282,000 modules. I mean, you can imagine if you go to IKEA and pick up a wardrobe, flat pack, that's one module, and we have to take 282,000 of them to site, you know. They come in containers, typically to the port, and we ship them to the site, sort of thing, you know. So we're buying them, we're buying the piles, we're finalizing our contracts for installing cables and so on and so forth, making sure everything's done. We know exactly where everything should go, but all that's been done at the moment. And so far, again, no hiccups, everything's going according to plan. And that's it. It's fairly simple.
So, thank you, Gary. I promised to our audience that we will try to answer the questions they asked in the beginning of the event. So, do you have any plans to diversify or to expand investments and projects in Poland? What kind of projects do you plan in Poland?
I mean, yeah, so we're quite relatively small in Poland so far, but we've got other projects coming along, wind, solar, battery, everything. So over the next year or 2 years, you'll see some of the projects that we've been working on over the past 2 or 3 years to start to come to market, yeah. Probably the first projects will be some small solar projects, then we'll see some bigger wind projects become behind that, and then maybe after that some battery. But yeah, a bit of everything, yeah.
Yeah, and we will inform our investors
Way
accordingly,
we'll do all the right
accordingly to
things,
stock market
yeah.
regulations. When you finish current projects, have you calculated how many % of Lithuania need for energy are you covering with this capacity? So fast math in your head.
So yeah, if you take offshore as being roughly 50%, yeah, the offshore projects that are out there, and Kelme alone is around 20%, yeah. So we'll be with Kelme and with Bajeki, we'll maybe 22, 23%, something like that. I'm guessing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You already talked about Silesia project, but I will ask it again. What is the situation with Silesia 137 megawatt plant? Are there term misses from Poland networks operator? Is it going to be some compensation from them?
That's a good question, yeah. I think we're still working through exactly where we stand at the moment. It's like I say, we're fully erected and we're now slightly waiting for the network operator. There's a bit of a miscommunication between which network operator we need to be, or who's responsible for the delay, let's say, and without saying anything more than that. And I think we'll have to work through that problem as we go on. Yeah, I have to say, so far they've been really good to try and work with us in solving the problem. So I think it would be not fair to say that we'll go chasing them, understanding that there's a delay, but I think it's something to work through afterwards.
Okay. What are the major barriers you face for more rapid renewable development? I would rephrase if there are any barriers.
People. I think that's fair to say, yeah. I mean, thankfully our organization itself very supportive. We can build out pretty much as quick as we can. We can get everything that we need as quick as we can, but it takes time. You know, you can't just suddenly build a project in 2 days. So if I tell you that from when we start a project, so let's build a project in, I don't know, Ignalina, just to say somewhere random. In Ignalina, it will take us 3 or 4 years to go through the process of saying, okay, here's the land, here's the landowners, let's secure that. Does it work? Can we get grid? And secure all them parcels of land and go and talk to the network operator. Then another 2 years to work through that to say, can we meet all the environmental criteria? So that's sort of 6 years work to get to that point. Only then can we start construction. So I guess they're the roadblocks. But the biggest constraint we have right now is, do we have enough people to do the work, or qualified people to do the work? And I think it's a general sort of Baltic states issue for us. But again, you know, our job is as national champion is also to kind of train these people for the future. So we've got a lot of people came to us quite early on, and we've spent a lot of time training these people as we go. But I think you have to understand that it takes time to do all the necessary steps, let's say, yeah.
This one a tough one. how Ignitis Renewables is different from other peers?
Oh, wow, that's a great question, yeah. Okay, we're the national champion. So let's talk about it being here in the Baltic states. So we're national champions, so we kind of look at things a little bit differently, meaning that we're probably a little more, well, that's unfair, but maybe we are a little more rigorous in our due diligence, in our processes, in our environmental concern, making sure that we meet all that criteria. To me, that sometimes takes us a little bit longer. But I think our projects are better for it. So our projects are better developed, more rigorously challenged. Land ownership becomes less of a block or an issue to us. And I hope that we try and do everything in a nice way. We're trying to be as fair as we can with everybody. Maybe some developers aren't always like that. You know?
Solar modules in the rainy Baltics. That's the question, yeah. So.
Okay, so it depends on where you are. If you're in Finland, it's about 9 to 11% efficient, and if you're in the Baltics, about 14% efficient, and if you're in Spain, it's about 30% efficient, and if you're in Saudi Arabia, it's 60% efficient. Something like that is how efficient a solar module is, yeah? So your business case has to be derived from how efficient is the module, what can you do, how can you save money, you know, where is it better suited, let's say, yeah? And you can do it, just about it makes sense, yeah? Solar modules are improved enormously. Now they're bifacial, which means that they generate on both sides, yeah? And what does that mean? It means that sometimes when the sun hits the ground and it reflects up, you get more efficiency from the solar module. So all the time they're getting better and better. So in the Baltic states, it just about works, let's say, yeah? You have to think about it. What we've tried to do in our projects in Latvia is we've used trackers. So we tend to follow the sun, and what that does is it gives us a wider spread. So rather than it being a very narrow spread during the day where the sun comes up and down, because the modules will move with the sun, that spreads out a little bit, and it makes us our capture rate is better, so we can get slightly higher prices, and it makes it a little bit more efficient.
We have more questions than we can actually answer
Always.
in time, but yeah. But I will ask you some last question. Okay, Gary, what is your buy-in in Ignitis talks? What is your situation? Yeah.
That's for me to know, I guess, yeah? Nobody else. But I have some, let's say, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Thank you. And now in our event will speak CEO of Ignitis Gamyba, Asta Sungailienė, and she will talk more on green flexibility and Kruonis power plant, which you will have a trip later today.
Hello, dear investors. I represent a part of Ignitis Group, which is having a long history, and we have assets that are really already well tested out and functioning, and therefore from, I would say, fancy green energy, we are now moving to flexibility. So when we talk about flexibility, we have an asset in Kruonis, which majority of you either already visited or will visit today, or at least to have this opportunity, which I encourage you to use. We have these capacities which are really big. The plant in itself is 900 megawatts with 4 already functioning units, and all of them are really, you know, one of the largest in Europe. So capacity-wise, it is an asset that we are utilizing and that we are using for flexibility. But it has some limitations, and that is why it was a case for investigating the expansion of our plant. And the 5th unit is now ongoing. The 5th unit will increase capacities, but what's the most important, that it will increase flexibility, enhancing us to provide balancing and other ancillary services to the market. With the project being live and implemented, this is going to be 1 gigawatt capacities that will be able to work full load for 10 hours. That's providing, you know, non-stop 10 gigawatt hours of capacity. And as I told you, that flexibility is the case that is probably one of the most important. So we will be able, in our generation mode, provide services from as low as 0 megawatts compared to current 160. While in the pump mode, during the peaks, we will be able to capture energy from 59 compared to 220 nowadays, and thus increasing efficiency and the speed of reaching full capacity. So few words on the rationale, just as a reminder. In general, the cycle of usage or demand side, just as it was in the first part of today's meeting presented, it is soft cycles that we have. So when we have generation from brilliant green energy, we are dependent on the nature, and unfortunately it cannot be as even as our demand side. And there comes those peaks of renewables that need to be somehow balanced and absorbed. And there comes our biggest capacities that we can provide to absorb into our basin, which is more than 50 million of cubic meters of water as a form of storage of energy by pumping it up. But as I mentioned, with the minimum capacity that we can function, we do not capture this excess of produced energy with the smaller amounts. And there we do lose some opportunities, but not only the opportunities, but also it is balancing of the entire system and ensuring that the prices are really more stable instead of having them as volatile as they are otherwise. So building the 5th unit, which has much greater flexibility, we will be able to capture those moments which we are now letting out without first ensuring the price stability, and second, not capturing also the benefits for the company and ultimately to you as investors. So having said that, I shall move to the status of the project. The project of the 5th unit has started more than a year ago. And now we are already not yet in the middle, but 1/3 is already in the past. And we have the team which has been working with preparations, with signing of a contract with truly experienced and really well coordinating the process, Voigt Hydro, which is 150 years of experience in this field, in both construction and installation of hydro plants, and having more than 40,000 such units already installed worldwide. So having such a solid partner ensures us to have very professional cooperation, and also allows us to move well according to the plan. And there we are, following our planned all features of the project, and with some of them even being ahead. So we have done testing. So model testing was done as early as January this year. We have all geological investigations completed on the site, which was very important as well, since this is artificial environment that has to be tested before that. And we already have both penstock and also powerhouse designs at experts' desks in the final stage, moving into presenting those for construction permits. And last but not least, we have the site already prepared for the works to be started next quarter or the very last quarter of this year. And I shall now pay your attention to the picture that is probably not as attractive as in many instances it would be, talking about Kruonis, since Kruonis is really a spectacular place for our eyes. But this picture is really a bottom ring of a turbine, which is already prepared or being prepared for our fifth unit at our contractor's plant. And it is a real picture of a real part of the equipment. And this is a milestone in the project that, alongside with the working with the design documentation, we have managed, together with our partner, to have more than 200 purchases placed with contractors in 9 different countries for already producing elements for the plant. So one that is visible for you. And just to mention a few figures for your imagination of the size of this project, I would say that we have now calculated more than 10,000 cubic meters of concrete to be used for this unit, for both penthouse and for powerhouse, for penstock and the powerhouse. And also it's 3,300 tons of steel and 2.3 thousand tons out of that just for the pipe itself. So this is really a big project for the company, but even more important that for the entire sector of, for the entire Lithuanian energy sector. So we are on track. We are solid with the project. We are ready to enter 2027 with higher flexibility to ensure and enable our renewable energy production to be really well balanced and serviced in the flexibility with their flexibility needs. And there I stop.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And now it's a part for the questions. As previously, I also had some questions from the start of the event, so I'll start with them. And is it possible to build another Kruonis? What is estimate cost and will it pay off?
Everything is possible, or nothing is impossible in a way, but it wouldn't be Kruonis, of course. We should understand that it is really geography which matters when we are talking about such type of facilities as our Kruonis pump storage hydro plant. So there were quite a number of investigations to look for places for anything similar of that nature, but none of them was as good as Kruonis, of course. And I would say that, you know, we still have capacities, if necessary, to be used in Kronis itself, as we have some space still available in case if we define a need and really the economy for expansion in Kronis itself. So if the need comes later, I think the geography is much wider nowadays than just Lithuania. So definitely it would be found, but not in Kronis. The second one in Kronis wouldn't fit in.
And we jump to naturally to our related questions because we have a few asking, are there plans to further expand Kronis with 6th unit, or maybe we can hope for 8th unit to be completed sometime? So how would you comment on this?
Just as previously mentioned, I think that each investment always has the startup point is the demand. So as soon as there is a demand for either higher flexibility or maybe a bigger capacity, then it would be on table. So since now it's not really the situation when it is really viable to expand right now, so it's not on the table. But as I mentioned, the possibilities are there.
Also, we have a question, how do you see Kronis involvement in balancing green generation or more for system services? So how would you comment on this one?
So I would say that this is not either or, it is and both. Because expanding the service span, we do provide balancing for renewables. So it is actually the two adding up to each other. It's not either or.
And basically related question, how has the Kronis capacity utilization increased with more negative electricity prices?
It did increase, and not only that it increased, but also it has changed the usage of Kronis itself, since now we are pumping up more during daytime due to this lovely summer that we had this year in Lithuania, as it used the opposite, that nighttime would be for pumping when the demand was lower. So it did affect quite a lot, and renewables has changed the landscape.
Are all components of ongoing upgrade meets national security requirements? We are talking about 5th unit, of course. So does it meet the national security requirements?
Oh, yes, it does. Oh, yes, it does. So Kronis falls into the category of national importance when we are talking about security part. So it's not only already having these solutions that are required and necessary for the times as we are living in now, but also it is well prepared for all the threats that are coming from outside.
Also, Kronis is considered short-medium capacity flexibility asset. With increasing generation, do you have any plans adding long-term alternatives to the portfolio? Not sure if the question is about Ignitis Gamyba portfolio or whole group, as we talked about our possibilities, but I will ask you this one.
Yeah, I think that, when we are talking about Kronis, we have natural limitation which is the size of the basin. So reservoir has some limitations in that scale. So I think that P2X is something what would solve and would much better meet the demands that are for the longer term storage. So I think that it would remain probably for short and medium term time in storage.
And okay, the last question from what I see, why is 5th unit 110 megawatts and not 225 as the existing ones?
So I think that my second slide with the rationale behind it kind of answers to this question, because the primary reason is flexibility. And flexibility does not require big, so to say, expansion of the capacity, but it's rather the actual technology that you build so that it meets requirements that we defined that are on the demand side.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation and the answers. And now we are going to another part of our event. And now we will talk more about network segment. So I invite Renaldas Radvila, CEO of Energijos skirstymo operatorius, to talk about grid development updates.
Okay, thank you, Arturas. Hello, so I would like to welcome everyone here in this special place, and those who are sitting in front of the screens on the other side of internet, yeah, and watching this broadcast. I'm Renaldas Radvila. I'm responsible for. I'm a CEO of energy distribution operator. And in my next slide, I will use the frequent abbreviation in Lithuania, ESO. It's Energijos skirstymo operatorius. And ESO is one of the 25 largest operators in Lithuania, and we are the biggest and largest network in the Baltic states. We oversee more than 130,000 kilometers of power lines, and we distribute almost 10 terawatt hours per year. These numbers, as you see, during the last 5 years increased, so we increasing in distribution, we increasing in the network length. Our network structure consists from two parts. So one part is with overhead lines, and in Lithuania we have 64% of network in overhead lines, and 36% of network is already cabled. As you see, during the 5 years, this number increased, and the number of cable network increased. So it means that in 2019 we had 31% of our network underground. Now it's the number is 36, and it's increasing year on year. 1.9 million customers is connected to our network, and as example, during the 2023, we connected or increased the power capacities to 76,000 customers. When we compare our network not from the technical perspective, but from the customer perspective, and we divide the network into residential customers and business customers, we see that in households and residential customers with stable connection of new customers, we see the capacity expansion, and we see the actually huge growth of prosumers. In the commerce segment, in the business segment, we see the stable connection of new customers. New prosumers take part in these numbers too, but they are not so big in numbers. But we understand that the business customers have more, more capacities, more power capacities, and the impact is actually bigger than the private customers. So the main drivers of grid expansion is, nowadays actualities. It's heat pumps and electric vehicle stations, and the network expansion will be driven by the growth of renewable connection to the grid, by the overall electrification, the growth of prosumers, and the growth of EV charging points. So the network capacity during the last 5 years increased by 20%, or 16 gigawatts. Our input to energy transition, it will be divided, into 3 parts. So it means the number of connections. So within next 3 years, we are planning to connect more than 280,000 of customers. It will be the new connections and the power capacity upgrades due to new customers, prosumers, and EV connection points. Due to renewables connected to ESO grid, the network expansion and the network growth will be within the next 3 years 2.2 gigawatts. And one more big project that is already running in Lithuania, it's our smart meter project. Today we have already 952,000 of smart meters installed in our networks, and we plan till the end of 2025 have 1.2 million of smart meters. If you remember, we have in general 1.2 million of customers connected to the grid. So the smart meters will be installed to every business customer and for the households who consume more than 1,000 kilowatt hours per year. So 1.2 million of smart meters will cover the 90% of all Lithuanian energy consumption. One more important thing which is measured between the operators, it's SAIFI. It's an acronym which is System Average Interruption Frequency Index, and it's the global index, or at least the index across the Europe. It shows how many times every customer on average was disconnected from the network. So within the next 3 years, we are planned to reduce the number and the customer disconnection from the grid. And the main drivers will be the underground cable lines. So it means that we will have less overhead power lines, the modernization of our equipment, of our substations, and network automation. So there will be the three main topics that could give us opportunity to reduce the SAIFI. Our network expansion and our, comparing to European peers. So ESO network is ranked 21st across the Europe when we, comparing the percent of underground cables. The SAIFI, without the accident and without the storms, I will tell you about them later, is among the top 10 of European countries. And in general, the biggest impact on SAIFI is caused by disconnection of overhead line related due to natural phenomena. So, and our promise to invest more into network resilience and network efficiency. When we looking back, I think that some of you remember the storm Kristi, which happened in Lithuania and Latvia too. And on our calculation, it was the biggest storm during the 5 last years, 2 times intense than our previous storm in 2020. And during the storm, we have more than 470,000 of customers disconnected from the grid. Some of them were disconnected even for 1 week. The main cause of the disconnection was trees and the branches on power lines. So the number was more than 5,800 cases. And more than 5,000 in more than 5,000 cases, we have to repair the wires to reconnect to our customers to the grid and supply them electricity. So the other thing is our people, and 4 to 6 times we increased the number of our staff and contractors who were involved into action to eliminate the storm disconnections, and from the operational troubleshooting till the contact center agents. And at one point, more than 900 people worked in the field to restore the electricity. So I hope this short presentation about the ESO, about the distribution network, has given you the more information and more understanding about distribution and about our future plans. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Renaldas, for your presentation. We have a few questions on our Slido platform. I encourage all watching this event to send them. How much energy usage is planned during 10 years? Would SO be capable to expand line capacities? And how much that would cost? And of course, what impact on tariff it would have? So a few questions in one.
Yeah, so thank you. So actually, when we're counting and calculating nowadays our grid utilization level, we see that on average, on the business segment network is utilized by 14%. On the residential side, it's only 4%. It means that today we have capacity for, for bigger energy consumption. Yes, in some places, the network have to be, upgraded. I don't know, the big cities, the special areas, but in general, we have capacity in our network. And yes, we're investing, we're planning, we're looking into the future, we're looking into the customers' plans and trying to, how to say, to install into network.
What is the most difficult part running DSO business?
I don't know, it's my first DSO in my life, so I don't have possibility to compare, but I don't know if it's difficult at all. It's interesting.
Okay, interested instead of difficult.
Yes.
In annual report, ESO declared 5% technological losses.
Yes.
1.2 from 2023. What are the main reasons, considering growing amount of investments?
Yeah, it means that we're comparing this figures with other operators, so it's no big difference. It's only equipment. It's equipment and natural losses that we face in our network. So all operators have these losses, and only the renewing of equipment could reduce the losses.
Okay. Last question. Can you comment the changes in the regulatory WACC calculation method for 2024? If you can't comment, you can say just no.
I think that one of my team member, our CFO, could explain it better, but, so I will leave it for him.
Okay.
For the next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Ronaldo, for your presentation. Thank you for the questions. And now we are moving to the last, but of course not the least part of our event. So, Artūras Bartkevičius, CEO of Ignitis, will talk more about customers and solutions segment and EV charging network updates.
Welcome, investors. My name is Artūras Bartkevičius. I'm head of customers and solutions for our organization, head of Ignitis. Today, I would like to present you what we have done with our EV charging network. And in less than 2 years, we managed to build the largest EV fast charging network in the Baltics. And over the next 2 years, we plan to at least double it. So I will tell you today where did we start, what have we done today, and where we are going forward. I will tell you about our 3 strategic priorities. I will show you the map. And in the end, we'll discuss the customer trends. So before I show any slides, I would ask how many of you guys drive electric vehicle here? Okay, quite a few. And how many of you ever have charged in Ignitis on network? As well, quite a few, but I see maybe 20% of present in this room drive or have driven electric. Okay, thank you. So where did we start? We start with Vilnius municipality tender in 2018. So Vilnius was the first Baltic capital to electrify, and we installed 50 charging locations at that time with more or less 100 plus fast charging points. So that was our beginning. In 2023, as a group, we decided we have to go all in on electric. And we decided, and we communicated publicly, ambitious plans to reach 1,500 charging points, fast charging points by 2026, 2028. What was the reason for this strategy change and acceleration with e-mobility? Reason is because it makes sense. We see that electric vehicles are here to stay. As Darius nicely mentioned, we don't expect hydrogen buses and hydrogen cars very much because it's not the most efficient way to travel. But charging electric and using electric power to drive makes sense. That's a way forward for transport electrification. So we are firm believers in future for electric vehicles. We are here to invest and stay long in this business. So what was our start? First thing we had to do was to recruit people. As Gary mentioned nicely, finding good people who have experience, qualified, is difficult. We hunted around. We attracted some people from micromobility, other sectors, and today we have a team of 60 fully dedicated specialists who work in Tallinn, in Riga, in Vilnius, and their key purpose is to find suitable locations, to install them, build them, and to manage front-end, back-end software, billing, etc., etc. We plan to grow this team further. So we started with 138 fast charging points just beginning of last year. Today we operate already 529 fast charging points. How did we achieve that? And one of the key successes, and this is our key milestone, was making agreements with retailers. So Rimi, we have agreement across 3 Baltic countries, Maxima, Citro in Latvia, Grossi in Estonia, and Hesburger, one of the oldest partners we have across Baltics. So these retailers, they have very good locations, they have many of them, and cooperation with retailers allowed us to move very fast in the market and become leaders. These locations are very attractive because they are high traffic. There is a lot of people, and usually retailers put their shops in quite densely populated areas, which is also strategic for us. In the past, we started with municipalities. So Vilnius was our first place where we implemented our network. We still cooperate with municipal, we still participate in municipal tenders like Marijampolė, Lazdijai, Liepāja. But I must admit it's not our priority anymore because a lot of municipal tenders involve slow charging, which is actually not key to our strategy, which we will discuss somewhat later. So getting locations is just a beginning. You have to build it. For that, we have made agreements with major European hardware providers, which is Alpitronic, Kempower, also Elinta Charge in Lithuania. Why do we choose European? First, because they are close to us. They can provide equipment fast from warehouses. They can provide service, and they can provide service parts very fast, which is also very important to ensure quality of the network. Another major milestone this year happened just like 3 months ago. We opened our first hub in Palanga. Those who are not Lithuanians, this is our summer destination on the sea. So this year we opened just on the beginning of the season in June, our first hub with 20 fast charging points. And I must admit, actually, I'm very happy with this project because it's very successful. We have highest number of sessions per location, highest number of charged megawatts per location. And it's really proof of concept for us that the hubs are working and people like to charge in hubs. Good. So let's move on. So 3 strategic priorities. And first strategic priority is actually building high power chargers and building hubs for us. So why do we focus on high power chargers and hubs? First, high power charging is premium product, so we can charge more for premium service. So those who drive electric know that if you want to go fast and long distance, you need fast charging. Otherwise, you will stay very long time in one place. So we sort of assume and we see that customers are willing to pay more to get better equipment and be serviced faster. Why do we focus on hubs? For a number of reasons. So first reason is charging anxiety, which is still a significant problem for any EV driver. So finding free port when you really need it drives your anxiety. When you see 100 kilometers left in your battery, you really bet, you really pray that you'll find a charging point. So when you come to Palanga and you have 20, you are always sure you have at least one. And we see this is very big motivator for people to look exactly for hubs. That's one reason. So charging anxiety. Another reason, for sure, it's easier to install, easier to maintain, and easier to balance power, connection to the grid, make it economically feasible when you have a hub. And the last reason for hubs is, for sure, Baltics is unique in a way across Europe that it's usually most of our population lives in apartment buildings, and putting electric charger in apartment is not really realistic, yes, from 9th floor or 5th floor. So we see that in future, in near future, hubs will be a solution for densely populated areas because it's easier to install hub, charge in it, and put a car in your parking lot where you always used to. That's why also I think we have to educate our municipalities, because municipalities think a little bit in this old way that on each sidewalk we have to have a charging station. It's very difficult to make it profitable, such business model. So we are not really fans of putting a lot of slow chargers around the city. We are looking for hubs. Our second strategic priority is hybridization, and this is fancy word. Also, Gary mentioned it. For us, it means that we have to find more than one use for batteries. So how to use customers' battery in balancing the grid, in charging or powering customers' home. Also, how to use batteries to make connection to the grid cheaper, because building a hub in the middle of Lithuania is not that easy, because simply there is not enough connection. So battery is one way to save on connection. So hybridization is also complicated. So it's easier said than done, because it involves software, hardware, regulation, pricing mechanisms, so that all participants in this business model would make some money, yeah? Last strategic priority is using groups assets, groups strengths. And one of the biggest strengths of Ignitis Group is its brand. So we have a recognizable brand across Baltics. I thank you journalists who came here today, because they will spread the strength of our brand across Baltics. So it's easier for us to enter as Ignitis than just to be a no-name, yeah, developer. Another thing is financing. So yes, we are still not super leveraged. I see we still have space to attract capital. And this is a very profitable business. We see it as a good business to invest to. Last thing is group generation. So our renewable companies build assets in all Baltic countries, and we are off-taker. We are currently off-taker already. As a retailer, we sell a lot of power across Baltics. And so today, yes, we have around 22% of market share in high power charging, but our goal is to reach 30%. That's because that's what we make in power sales, basically. We have 1/3 of retail market. We want to have 1/3 of charging market as well. So group helps us in that. Let's look at the map. So you can see that Lithuania is the most sort of well-built country, and we have over close to 700 operational charging points, of which 80% are high power chargers. So that means DC chargers. Only 20% of our network is slow chargers. Why do we have such discrepancy in the map? You can see that in Latvia we have already operational 60 charging points, and in Estonia only by end of this year we will have anything built and operational. The key reason is speed. In Lithuania, it's still much faster to build an operational charging point. So let's say, as an example, Palanga was done in less than 200 days. So we signed in October with Palanga, and we cut the ribbon in June on opening of the season. 199 days, less than 1 year. Normally it takes 1 year to build a charging point in Lithuania. In Latvia, 18 months. And Estonia, it takes at least 2 years. So, and up to 3 years even. It's quite difficult. So our plans here, you see 2,000 high power charging points across Baltics. I mentioned 1,500 by 2026. So 1,500 is base scenario. This will be built whatever. We believe that 1500 is needed to give customers sort of network feeling that you can go anywhere and find Ignitis charger. 2000 by 2028, it's conditional on acceptance, user acceptance. If customers need, if infrastructure is utilized properly, we're not going after some fancy targets. We pursue profit and utilization, and if it makes sense, we will build more. So let's look what customers do. So I'm really happy to show you this picture because you can see that we have already 28 private customers in our network, and we have 1,000 business customers. In the past, it was a couple car-sharing companies which were giving us biggest usage, but today I'm happy to say that more than 60% of our utilization comes from private customers, and we don't depend anymore on any big industrial or business customer. What I wanted to tell for the ending of this presentation is changing behavior of the customers. So you see the growing numeric in our network, 29,000 in less than 1 year, we added 8,000 customers. We see that this is due to electric vehicles. We have more than 35,000 electric vehicles in Baltics now. We have more charging points. So Ignitis is only one player in the market. Yes, we are biggest fast charging network developer, but we are not alone. So infrastructure is already well accepted and well widespread. So the key reason why we see utilization growing in our network is because people start driving more in electric vehicles. And this June, we reached full megawatts charged of last year, 2023, and we expect 2024 will double megawatts charged in our network. And this is due to traveling. So maybe we saw that 20% of you guys have driven electric. How many of you have crossed the national border in electric vehicle ever? Okay, we have 3 people or 4 people. And that shows how low confidence it is for long distance travel. For many people, electric vehicle is city transport measure. And we see that this is changing and people start driving more. And so we see more megawatts charged in our network. And we believe this will be more and more and more. Okay, so I told you where did we start from, where are we going. I told you about our 3 strategic priorities, which is high power charging hubs, hybridization, and using group resources. You saw the network, which is growing fast. You saw the customer acceptance. So I'm ready for your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arturas, for the presentation. And you have quite a few questions, actually. So I guess that we do have some EV users. The first question is about prices, actually. Do you see EV charging prices at Ignitis on as being reasonable? In Latvia, pricing is 35 cents and in Lithuania 45. Why such difference?
And in Ionity, 90 or 70, you know, it depends where you go and what you want. So as I mentioned, we perceive that we provide premium service. We put the best equipment. For example, we have chargers 300 kilowatt, 400 kilowatt chargers. We put them in very good locations, and we charge competitively.
Electrical car makers are throwing away their electrification targets, Volvo, Toyota. What is your view of your customers group grow without support from car makers?
I see that, yes, we have this news that car makers are backpedaling. We see Porsche who told, okay, we don't go full electric. I think Mercedes is, and we can see that different car manufacturers face challenges, but I think we will hardly find any manufacturer without electric vehicle, like Subaru launched even electric Subaru, so everybody has electric in their line. It's only going 100% electric maybe is still a good question, you know. So I see number of electric vehicles at good prices going up. We can see that batteries are getting cheaper, lithium is getting cheaper. We get some Chinese competition into Europe. We get some smaller cars with good mileage for very cheap. So once prices of the cars will drop down, I think acceptance will be much wider of electric vehicles. In the past, we had only super premium. Let's say Mercedes had extremely expensive car models and still quite popular, but with only premium, super premium segment of the cars. Now we have Tesla Model 3 coming to Lithuania, actually. Tesla already opened in Lithuania, which is great news, I think, for us. But we have a lot of mainstream models, like for ID3 Volkswagen, etc., etc., etc. So this will be much more widespread. Plus, our market, let's admit, a secondary market for cars. So when Germans start selling their cars to Baltics, I think it will become Audi, I don't know which one, the most popular, 80, or I don't know. That's what will be. That's what will become also for us in our market, widely accepted secondary market.
Okay, I see. We can talk about cars for a whole event, yeah. But another question from our investors: is EV charging business profitable?
Today, we are not focused on profit. We see a very good business model. I think Jonas is the guy who is really looking into strict figures, and we don't do crazy decisions just because it's very fancy and very popular. We do it because it's good business case behind it. Today, we are focused on expansion and building the map. Efficiency and profitability comes in 2-3 years for this business.
Okay. We have actually a few questions similar about the retail partnerships. How does partnership usually work with EV charging? Is it a partner like Hesburger or is it Ignitis which pay for opening of the charging places? So a bit of insight as much as you can, you know, to tell how.
Usually retailers they understand very well what they have. They have location, but they need service to their customers. So what they say, okay, we bring your customer, you bring us infrastructure, and we sort of share in benefit. Usually it's done either by revenue, some revenue share, or by paying some rental fees, you know. So yes, it's mutual beneficial cooperation.
Okay.
Or it's even done for free, actually. It can be done for free just to get additional service for customers at the location.
Why does it take so long, 2-3 years in Estonia? What are others doing better?
I think in Estonia we have the most bureaucratic procedure to connect to the grid, and also probably grid capacity is not as available. So it takes very long to increase grid capacity necessary to build proper high power charging, which is our actually segment. Yes, we don't go to AC charging that much. So that's the key reason.
Okay, so the last question, and we have a few related questions. How much time have you calculated how much time does it take to pay back the building of EV charging station?
It depends, like hubs could be 3 years, and if it's in some remote place which is low utilization, still needed, like our Zarasai project, I think it will take maybe 8 years.
Okay. Thank you, Arturas. Thank you for the presentation. So, dear investors, dear online viewers, we are approaching the end of our event. I truly hope that we will meet here or in some other place next year in Investor Day 2025. I hope you enjoyed the presentations and got a lot of insights and understanding, not only about Ignitis Group, but about the energy market of the Baltic states as well. Before you leave, I just want to remind you that the trip to Kruonis will be 2:30 strictly. So in around 20 minutes, you should get to the bus who will be waiting outside of the museum. And please enjoy your time in Kruonis. Enjoy the trip who are going tomorrow on another trip. Thank you and goodbye.